Hi there. In this video, we're going to talk all about how data that you've captured in the Gecko chat platform, the conversations across your different channels as they take place, how that information can be used in a meaningful and effective way in Slate. So the first thing that we want to do then is note that they're quite rigid, the exports in Gecko, but that's no bad thing because it gives you all of the information to play with over whichever date ranges you want, and then allows you to cherry pick precisely the information that's relevant to you. And we're going to go through precisely what that information is in just a few moments. The setup from the Gecko end could not be simpler. Go to Settings and Exports. Tell Gecko it's a recurring export that you want to create. Pop in the name. It's closed conversations you'll likely want to only include. How often do you want this to run? Daily, weekly, or monthly? At what time? And do we only want to include data from a certain date onwards, or only the conversations, this is my favorite one, that have been created or updated since the very last export we ran? So set a recipient, we enable SFTP, we add the Slate SFTP information, we hit next step and hit set live, and then you're done. That's everything from a Gecko perspective you will ever need to do for the Slate integration. And that's not hyperbole, it really is that simple, and there's no reason you'd need to come back and change it. The important thing then is done on the Slate side with setting up a source format. If you're not familiar with the nomenclature, if you've not done that before, don't worry, we've helped a number of clients, a lot of clients, I can't even remember the amount of calls that have been on with this, set up exactly this, and it's doable in about 10 to 15 minutes, so definitely not an outlay. The crucial thing to note though is that the export from Gecko is going to look roughly like this, and if you would like a copy of this, no problem at all. This is completely sanitized, so it is totally safe to share. But basically it's going to push through all of these wonderful columns for you to do some really insightful things with. So on the far right, and I've removed all of the details again from a data security perspective, but we can push out all of the names of the students, all of the last names, emails, telephones, any other custom fields you want to capture as well on your chat instance, basically, so we can use this to make sure that Slate knows which contacts to merge into if there's an existing contact with those details, or creating a brand new record. In addition to that, we push over the times the contact were created at if you want that information there. Where it gets really interesting though, and hopefully where it gets you rubbing your hands in anticipation, is the meta information we can push across, which can create just the best interactions on the Slate timeline. So for instance, we can push over the time the conversation was created at, the time it finished. You can see the channel that this took place on within Gecko Chat. You can also see the exact URL that the page the student was on at the time in which the conversation took place. You can see the page title, the number of times the student had been on that page, the time on the page before they launched the conversation. You can see from their URL whereabouts roughly in the world the student was when they messaged you, the device they were using. Did they speak to a bot? Did they speak to any agents? Do we want to use that information to create tasks? Even a link to the transcript of the conversation. So that's a lot of information to throw at you firstly, but the important takeaway here is you can create interactions on that timeline that have a direct link to the conversation, but give you every single bit of useful information to discern more about the student journey, where they might be getting confused on, which pages they're regularly visiting, to absolutely get the most out of that data. And really, from the source format perspective, going back to that on Slate, it's just a simple case of saying, cool, here's the transcript URL, update the interaction timeline, and having the right fields on that interaction timeline to accommodate it.